member of the House Homeland Security Committee. He joins us live from Long Island, New York. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. I want to play some remarks made by the mother of journalist James Foley, who, of course, was unfortunately murdered by ISIS in August of last year. Take a listen.
Kayla, along with our son and others, were held for nearly 2 years, and there were many opportunities along the way, and yet nothing was done to save our young Americans.
We still don't know for certain the status of Kayla Mueller, the American aid worker. Meanwhile, the White House has said that they are reevaluating the hostage negotiation policy. She has been very critical of it, saying that the White House basically kept her from trying to negotiate a ransom for her son. What do you think the position should be of the United States? Should the U.S. be willing to pay ransom? Should we allow families to do so?
Jake, first of all, let me just say, my heart goes out to those families, and I don't know what I'd do if I were in their position. In fact, I guess you'd do anything to try to get your son or daughter back. Having said that, I think it is very bad national policy to either ransom or even to allow relatives from the country to try to pay ransom, because all that would do is encourage more kidnappings. It would give them funding that they would use to kill innocent people, but also worse than that, it would just encourage more kidnappings. You cannot appease people like this. Now, that's a harsh thing to say, but again, a national leader, the president, has to look at it from the perspective of the country, and I would say that we should not in any way be engaged in ransom at all with ISIS or any other terrorist organization.
James Foley's mother also said in that interview on ABC, talking about the failed rescue mission, that the intelligence obviously was poor. It has to be asked, is the intel about ISIS so bad that the U.S. military should not even at this point be attempting any rescue missions?
No, we still have to be attempting whatever we can and trying to get the best intelligence. Jay, I think one of the problems with the intelligence is that when we withdrew all of our troops from Iraq, that made it much harder for us to have intelligence agents on the ground. It made it harder to get intelligence sources, and that's one of the prices you pay. And the same thing will happen in Afghanistan if we pull all our troops out, or we even just bring down the number of troops. But certainly in Iraq, by pulling out all the troops, that made it much more difficult for us to get any type of intelligence assets on the ground, and also we have virtually nothing in Syria. So yes, it is more difficult to get intelligence, but having said that, no, we should never give up. And again, the raid that was unsuccessful, it would have been successful if it was 72 hours earlier. So they did find out a lot. They just didn't find it out in time. But no, we should not give up. But I understand the frustration of the family, absolutely.
Retired Marine General John Allen, who is the presidential envoy for the Global Coalition Against ISIS, says that ISIS is an entirely different enemy than al-Qaeda, that ISIS is better organized, that ISIS's command and control structure is superior. Do you think ISIS is the biggest threat, in your estimation, to the United States?
I would think it's the biggest strategic threat because it controls. It's almost a nation state. We've never had that before, where a terrorist organization actually is its own country. And that's almost what ISIS has formed in Syria and Iraq, and the way it's surging through the Middle East. It certainly has far more numbers than any other group has. And by bringing all these foreign fighters, it gives it the opportunity to send those fighters back to Europe, back to the United States, to carry out attacks here. I would say the biggest immediate threat to the U.S. is al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, because they have the capacity to attack here, and they've attempted it before. But certainly over the next several years, I would say ISIS is by far the greater threat.
After withdrawing from the military campaign against ISIS, the United Arab Emirates has apparently resumed participation in airstrikes over the weekend. What happened in your understanding of it? Why did the UAE drop out? Why did they resume?
The UAE dropped out. My understanding is they dropped out because they didn't feel that there was enough support, that if one of their pilots went down, that the recovery efforts weren't enough American troops nearby to recover a pilot that went down. So I think they lost some faith in us. Now with Jordan going all out the way they are, UAE is coming back in with Jordan, they're flying support along with Jordan. And I have to give King Abdullah credit. I mean, here is a person who really responded immediately, showed leadership. He's been an outstanding leader over the years, but never more so than over the last week. He's really stepped up. And when you see what he's done over the last 3 or 4 days, and this is a small country, of only several million people, they're able to do this much damage in 3 or 4 days. You wonder, why hasn't the U.S. done more over the last 6 months? We have to go all out, and if Jordan is the one who's going to provide the leadership, so be it. But it shows what can be done when a concerted effort is made.
Congressman Peter King, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Coming up, brand new CDC numbers just out show a huge spike